Assessment. According to experts, ideally, ELL students should be assessed using measures that are valid in terms of their sensitivity to culture and to the amount of exposure to English these students have had. There are challenges to assessing reading ability and making eligibility decisions for students who are English language learners. Educators must be willing to plan and adapt appropriate assessments based on the English language learners' backgrounds. By understanding the learner's needs and abilities, this allows us to scaffold them to the next level. By creating a classroom climate, an atmosphere that is calm and open is one of the greatest ways to reach all the children. There are many different levels of assessment when it comes to reading and writing in both the child's home language and in English. By utilizing several different assessments allows the teacher to further understand the child and how to best teach them. There are challenges to assessing reading ability and making eligibility decisions for students who are ELLs. Educators must be willing to create lessons based on the needs of the child. It is important to be aware of the challenges in reading assessment, evidence-based practices for assessing reading with English language learners, and the link between assessment and instruction. The documented assessments for reading in our classroom include questions such as parts of the book, characters, setting, what happened at the beginning, middle, and end of the story, and is the student able to share their favorite part with the class? Although I understand the reasoning for these questions on paper, there are so many more things that can be and in fact are assessed during the read-alouds in the classroom. These concepts are gathered in anecdotal records, and they help to differentiate lessons going forward and guide the future readers to further understand the ideas and concepts that go further than the page. These concepts coincide with Bloom's taxonomy's higher order of thinking and their ability to comprehend stories and concepts even at a young age or in a different language. Successful readers are engaged readers. They are motivated to read and identify themselves as good readers. Giving them the confidence of being a good reader gives them the ability to achieve anything academically. The assessments that help us develop instructional activities could be reading with partners, retelling the stories and role-playing, giving descriptions or instructions, giving oral reports to the whole class or to a small group, retelling a story using the sequence of events using pictures, brainstorming, debating, completing incomplete stories, adding an ending, using open-ended questions, and making things fun always by playing games. Response to intervention for English language learners. The data-based decision-making that occurs within response to intervention models is promising for English language learners as well. The National Center on Response to Intervention recently published a manual on using screening and progress monitoring tools to improve instructional outcomes of English learners. Although the manual was written for ELLs who speak Spanish, the results are transferable to other ELLs provided that the educators take into account other culturally specific factors. A very beneficial way to address this concern is the implementation of RTI and its three-tiered form of teaching. Pyramid-like in concept, the largest is at the bottom, Tier 1, which is instruction that is geared toward the whole class or smaller groups with differentiated instruction. The second tier of the pyramid is a more focused group that provides more targeted small group instruction in order to more closely guide struggling readers. The top of the pyramid, or Tier 3, allows for dedicated, possibly one-on-one instruction by someone who may be more specialized in reading and writing instruction. The RTI model is a recent addition to this and is recommended process for schools to follow when working with children who are struggling to learn to read or who may not be reading at grade level. In recent years, research has demonstrated the consistent advantages of providing students small group, differentiated literacy instruction targeting specific identified needs and teaching those needs. Supporting the DLLs or ELLs and creating modifications and accommodations. Pre-existing knowledge for English language learners is encoded in their home language, and consequently, educators should explicitly teach in a way that fosters the transfer of concepts and skills from the student's home language to English. Research clearly shows the potential for this kind of cross-language transfer in school contexts that support biliteracy development. It is difficult to argue that we are teaching the whole child when the school policy dictates that students leave their language and culture at the door of the school upon arrival. For me personally, I try and tell the parents, please do not stop speaking your home language. I want the children to never lose that, to be able to communicate with grandparents and other family members. We will focus on building up their English abilities in school. Successful reading demands readers' use of prior knowledge, inferential reasoning, and evaluative mindsets. These three elements are used even before the age of 5 as we begin to build up our readers and their abilities. Building vocabulary and assessing a child's prior knowledge helps guide their instruction. Other mediators can also ask, what happened next? What do you think is going to happen? What is your favorite part? Anything with an open-ended question, either during or after a read aloud, gives the child a chance to evaluate what they have heard or read in a story and to answer the questions being asked. Here are some accommodations and modifications that can be used in an ELL or ESL setting for English language learners. You can pause here for a moment. There's a lot of information on this page that could be extremely helpful. But ultimately, any child can succeed. I have a background, I have lived, traveled, taught in several Spanish-speaking countries, and am highly sensitive and aware of those who may need further modifications or accommodations. It's helpful to utilize a lot of pictures and basic vocabulary building at first in order to make sure that the ELLs are able to comprehend the lessons at hand. It is important to create an open and comfortable environment for all learners, no matter what their language, age, or skill level is. It is imperative that no child is left to struggle. All students must be given the tools to be the best learners that they can be. Finally, literacy engagement among all English language learners, all students, struggling English language learners, requires the teachers across the curriculum to explain how language works and stimulate students' curiosity about language. Students who gain a sense of control over language will want to use it for more powerful purposes. Depending on the levels and abilities of the child, a good teacher will be cognizant of this and be sure to differentiate the lessons at hand depending on the individual child's needs. Given the correct positive support and reinforcement, any child can succeed. No matter what language breakdown is in the classroom, providing a comfortable atmosphere and a fun learning environment allows the child to grow on so many levels. This is most beneficial because the dual language learners are not singled out or made to feel different or any less adequate. All children are learning vocabulary and other information in the same ways. All children have the potential. We just need to find the best way to achieve a greater understanding. And as Dr. Seuss said, the more that you read, the more things you will know. The more you learn, the more places you will go. Attached are the references that I used throughout writing this paper and creating this presentation. Thank you so much for your time.